Hey, sixth graders. It is Tuesday, May 12th, and today we are really focused on finding unit rates. Yesterday, you did a killer job at writing ratios, remembering that order matters, and remembering that you can simplify your ratios. We're going to keep using all of those skills. We're still working really heavily with ratio tables in order to find unit rates today. This is one of my favorite topics in sixth grade. So lucky you, lucky me, that's what we're going to talk about today. Let's start with just a review of what unit rate is. First of all, a rate is a ratio that compares two quantities with different units. So one example of a rate is I typed 120 words in 2 minutes. Can you think of another example of a rate? Just make one up. Awesome. Go ahead and jot your rate on your notes, or if you couldn't think of one, that's okay. Jot my rate on your notes. Okay, so a unit rate, you can think of unit as one. A unit rate is a rate per one. Unit rate is a? Yes. An example of a unit rate is 60 words per minute. If I typed 120 words in 2 minutes, that's equivalent to a unit rate of 60 words per 1 minute. Okay, the word one is sometimes not written. Sometimes you just get this word per, and that means for every one of whatever comes next, in this case, minutes. You can also switch and make it one word. So it would take 0.0167 minutes per word. I think the more useful unit rate is, of course, 60 words per minute, but just like constant of proportionality, there are 2 unit rates for every rate. Okay, take a moment right now to jot down the definition of unit rate. I'll highlight it for you here. Awesome. So we're going to go ahead and do our question of the day early today. Your question of the day is, what is a unit rate? Okay, so in order to enter your answer, I just want to give you some really specific directions so that the computer marks your work correct. So here's my notes. We said a unit rate is a rate per one. You can just write in as your answer in your Google form, rate per one. You don't need to capitalize any letters. You don't need a period at the end. Just write rate per one, just like I have it here, and the computer will grade your answer correctly. Awesome. So if you haven't already, pause the video here and make sure that's typed in for question of the day. Let's get started on some practice questions. Here's number 1. A car can travel 174 miles in 4 hours. How many miles can the car travel per hour? As I said before, I love a ratio table for this strategy. The 2 units included in the rate are miles and hours. So that's a great clue for your ratio table, what goes on the top of your ratio table. I'm going to give you a minute and a half to try this one on your own, and then we'll come back together. Go ahead and get started. Think carefully. Look for that word per. That tells you where your 1 goes in your ratio table. About 30 seconds left. Awesome. So let's review our work here. It's okay if you didn't quite finish, you can catch up now. I knew that the rate given in the question was 174 miles for 4 hours. Then I knew it said how many miles per hour. That means how many miles for every 1 hour. I don't know any kind of relationship to get from 174 to 4 or vice versa, but I do know that to get from 4 to 1, I have to divide by 4. Because I know 4 divided by 4 is 1, I know I'm going to have to do divided by 4 on the other side as well. So this relationship comes because of where the 1 is. Then I just needed to do 174 divided by 4. I used long division and I got 43 and 5/10 miles for every 1 hour. So my unit rate is 43 and 5/10 miles per hour. Pause the video here to update your paper if you need to. If you don't need to, go ahead and put a big star on your paper next to your answer. I love to see those when you open up your notes. So many scholars who upload pictures of their notes are getting stars on all their questions. I'm so impressed by your achievement. All right, team, we are going to go ahead and enter our answer for that question in the Google form. For all of the questions today, just put the number. Don't worry about typing in the unit, just put the number. Please pause and do that now. All right, we are going to move on to question 2. Question 2 we're going to do together. Let's start by reading it. The distances and times of 4 students on the cross-country team are shown. Do you know what cross-country is? Cross-country is long-distance running. Think run across the country. It's not quite that long, but it's long-distance running, okay? Which runner has the fastest average speed during these practice runs? All right, well, I can see that I have a chart here that shows these 4 runners, how far they ran, so how many miles. Wow, that's a long run, Lillian. As well as time in minutes, so how long it took. Wow, Lillian seems to have gone a really far way in a small amount of time relative to her peers. Do you think that makes her fast or slow? Right, in this case, fast would be more miles in that small amount of time. We can easily compare speed of runners or speed of anything if we put them all in a way we can compare, which is a unit rate. You see speed all the time on signs that say something like 45 miles per hour or 25 miles per hour. And of course, more miles per hour means faster, means yes. So we don't have miles and hours here, we have miles and minutes, but we can still work the same way. We can find miles per minute and look for longer or more miles in a minute, or we can find how many minutes per mile. Go ahead and take 20 seconds and just decide which unit rate do you want to find. Miles per minute or minutes per mile. Okay, I thought at first I might want to find miles per minute personally, but that would give me a ratio that I think is a little bit harder to find than minutes per mile. Like I can find how many minutes per mile for Santiago in my head because I know he went 2 miles in 34 minutes. I can use division to find per 1 mile, right? Doing it the other way is a little bit harder. So I'm going to go ahead and find how many minutes per mile. Before I start, do you think a lot of minutes per mile is fast, or do you think a little minutes per mile is fast? Yeah, a smaller number of minutes for every 1 mile is faster. You can run 1 mile in less time. That means you're faster. So let's go ahead and get our paper set up and our work organized. So here's question 2. I'm going to go ahead and set up miles and minutes. And I have 4 runners and they all have different rates. So I'm going to end up with multiple ratio tables here. If it's a different rate, it belongs in a different table. Okay, so I have 4 runners, so I'm going to go ahead and set myself up with 4 ratio tables. Okay. The first one is Santiago. All right, so it says that Santiago went 2 miles in 34 minutes. This one's quick and easy. 2 miles in 34 minutes. Can you tell me how long did it take him to run 1 mile? Yes, 17. How did you get that? Maybe you divided by 2 on each side of your ratio table. Or maybe you knew that 2 times 17 was 34. So that relationship is the same. That constant of proportionality is the same in the whole table if it's proportional. 1 times 17 is 17. Santiago can run 17-minute miles. Let's do the next one. Go ahead and set up your ratio table for Raiden. Take 30 seconds to find how many minutes per mile. Last 10 seconds. All right, check your work with mine. I know that Raiden can run 10-minute miles. Takes 10 minutes per mile. Who's faster between Santiago and Raiden? Why? Raiden is faster than Santiago. I know that because it only takes Raiden 10 minutes to run a mile, but Santiago needs 17 minutes to run a mile. If you finish a mile in less time, that means you're faster. Let's look at the other 2 runners. I'll put a minute and a half on the clock. We'll see if we can get the other 2 runners done on our own. Both Lillian and Eleanor, please. And I'll meet you back here in 90 seconds. Go. Last 30 seconds. Think carefully about which runner is the fastest. All right. So when I was working on Lillian and Eleanor, I realized that Lillian and Eleanor might not be being honest with their cross-country coach. 3 minutes in 1 mile was my rate for Lillian, and Eleanor 4 minutes per mile. That is an extremely fast mile to be running, so maybe Lillian and Eleanor got tricked. But if this were their true rate, of course, Lillian would be the fastest because she can run a mile in the fewest amount of minutes. Okay. Awesome. In your Google form, we're going to enter the answer that corresponds with Lillian. Lillian is answer choice A. Please go ahead and select answer choice A for question number 2. All right, question 3, and this is our last one today. Go ahead and read it with me. Sean scored 48 points in 16 basketball games last season. I hear a rate because there's a comparison of values with two different units. Approximately how many points did Sean average per game? Set up a ratio table. I'll see you back here in 90 seconds. Last 20 seconds. Awesome. Let's go ahead and review. My answer was 3 points per game. I made a mistake the first time, but I caught it. When you multiply number of games times 3, you get number of points. You could have also divided by 16. Either way, you find that 3 points per game is your answer. Just note that per game means one game, so my 1 goes in the games column. If it said how many games does he have to play to get 1 point, then 1 would go in the points column. So just look out for those two different unit rates. You've got to read the question carefully to get it. So my answer was 3, so answer choice B was correct. All right, team, that's it. You're going to find some unit rates in your independent practice today. If you open the presentation, I'll have this linked for you. I'll link it when I'm done filming this video, as well as your skill builder. Mr. Zwar would love to see you in office hours today at 3:15. Otherwise, I will see you tomorrow for more fun with ratios.